thinking of chilling out with furry movies, there are plenty of good options out there, from the surprisingly good Sonic movie to my guilty pleasure Rock Dog. But wow, there are a lot of furry movies out there that just suck.
Bad.
And yeah, previously we looked at some furry movies that sucked, including Norm of the North and that dumpster fire food fight. Well, those were really just the tip of the iceberg, because oh boy, there's a lot more bad furry movies out there.
Oh yeah.
Hello, I'm Shadow Raccoon.
And I'm Peter Rabbit.
And here's some more furry movies that really suck. Oh yes, I can actually talk about this movie now that it's been out. You likely saw this coming on this list a mile off. But oh yes, when it comes to bad furry movies, Cats is definitely high on that list. I first saw the trailer for this movie in front of the Lion King film back in July 2019. And even then, just from the initial response in the cinema screen I was in myself, I could tell this was not going to be well received. And oh boy, was I right. The response to the trailer was, well, entertaining, at the least. News articles wrote about how it disturbed them, memes were made about it, and the tabloid media even asked us furries what we thought of it. When the film finally landed in cinemas in December, it was met with a slew of bad reviews. Kind of as expected, and it received a Rotten Tomatoes score of 20%, and the reviews were quite harsh towards it, to say the least. I think my favourite review from this site had to be,
"While it was a challenging musical to adapt to screen, Cats was a mess, and I regret not drinking a lot before seeing it."
Critics of the film often commented that the movie was slow, dull, and dragged, even though it clocks in at just 110 minutes. They also said that the animation is strange and disturbing, and for some of at least the earliest reviews, that it was half finished. And that it was! Cats made history. Not for being an amazing star-studded Broadway adaptation, but for being the first movie to ever be updated after being released at cinemas. Just a few days following its cinematic release, Universal Studios sent out a memo to cinemas that it was going to be supplying them with a new version of the movie, with updated visual effects, Cats 2.0. One of the people who saw the updated effects noticed that they'd covered up Judi Dench's hand, which had been previously on display, wedding ring and all. I mean, how did they actually miss that in the first run of it? Compared to the other movies on this list, many of the other ones that suck, I could actually, though, see this having this kind of cult furry appeal, where groups of furries gather together, hold viewing parties, drink, and just laugh at how bad this film is. Kind of like a furry version of what people do for The Room, or even the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I first discovered this movie on Netflix whilst looking for something fun and furry to watch. On noticing it had bunnies in it, I just had to give it a look. And I didn't make it more than 15 minutes into this pile of trash before turning it off and never returning to it, to be honest with you. But that wasn't until Shadow made me watch it for this research for this video. Released in 2014, Agent F.o.x is a Chinese animated film, also known in some places as Firefox of Bonington Burrows, which I won't lie is a much cooler name. The story involves a fox on a mission to recover an artifact who has to go into an enemy village full of rabbits where they mistake him for a distant cousin. I mean, what the actual f***? The fox then falls in love with the town and in the end turns on the fox army, staying with the rabbits. And who could blame the fox for falling in love with a bunch of rabbits? I mean, you know, especially ones when they look this good. Even if the story was trying to do something unique and original, this is so hard to watch. The animation and character designs are so bad that they hurt my eyes, and the voice acting is so poor that it hurts my beloved ears. This movie feels more like a high school homework project than an actual film. The character designs are lazy and uninspired. The first thing I thought when I put this on was, Is it made by somebody who's never even seen a rabbit or a fox before? I mean, look at the fox! He looks like RJ from Over the Hedge, except rendered on a toaster. No surprises, this film received a terrible critical reception. Rated 3 out of 10 on IMDb, and with an audience score of 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, there's not even a critical score for this film on there, as I suspect no one could even stomach it. Safe to say, every copy of this film needs to be locked in a box and sunk to the bottom of the ocean, so no one will ever see it again. Believe me, there are no other options.
From the poster, this film looks like it might not be too bad. It makes mention of big names such as James Franco, John Cleese, and even Alec Baldwin. But, as we know, when a film sucks, it relies on its star power to try and sell it, even if they only come along and say one line. And spoiler alert, Arctic Dogs is one of those movies. Releasing in 2019, this film goes by multiple names depending on where you live. For some regions, it's called Arctic Dogs, others it's Polar Squad, or in some places, it's called Arctic Justice. The story follows Swifty, an Arctic fox who works in the mailroom for a delivery service and dreams of becoming a top dog husky courier. A harmless enough story, I guess, especially if you're a fox who dreams of becoming a husky. Going off to deliver a secret present to prove that he can be a husky, his plans are dashed when he meets the film's villain, a walrus voiced by John Cleese, and learns of his scheme to melt the Arctic in order to become supreme leader of the world. Yeah, can we just take a moment to realise how stupid that sounds? Nonsensical plot aside, this film features lackluster animation. The lead character looks dangerously close to the last movie we talked about, Agent Fox, and the backgrounds just feel like they were forgotten about. I think the biggest insult here, though, is that they spent $50 million on this. For that price, I expect much better animation than what they have. Now, I do always try to say something positive with these films, but I won't lie, Arctic Dogs is making it so hard to do. I guess the one good thing about this film is it does feature a polar bear voiced by Alec Baldwin. Yay, bears! But yes, critically this movie was slammed, receiving 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, with critics describing the film as bland, poorly animated, save for the facial expressions, and that it had an over-the-top and excessive film score. My favourite Rotten Tomatoes reviewer, though, has to be this.
Kids, if your parent puts this on for you, they clearly don't love you.
Whilst this film sure didn't win any awards, it did at least break one record. The record for having the worst opening of all time for a film playing in 2,800 theatres in the US award. What a mouthful. It also made just $9 million back of its $50 million at the box office. Ouch.
From the studio that bought you Ratatouille and Little Bee, I present to you the Little Panda Fighter. Jeez, I wonder what popular fighting movie this is going to be. Kung Fu Panda? No, you'd be wrong. Billy Elliot. Now seriously, stay with me here. The story is set around a panda named Pancada who wants to be a dancer, but however is stuck working in a boxing club. The Pancada's boss, Polaris, is a polar bear who's going to fight a grizzly bear named Freaky Teddy. Great name, guys, really. And after an accident, when Pancada washes his costume, Polaris ends up looking like a panda. For some reason, everyone mistakes the massive polar bear for Pancada. He wins the fight against Freaky Teddy, and now everybody thinks that Pancada is Polaris. You still following me here? Well, I'm glad you are. This then leads to Pancada himself having to fight Freaky Teddy for real. And no surprise here, he loses. Who'd know? However, Polaris then informs Pancada that he put all the money on Pancada losing. Real classy, guys. And now, they're very rich, and he can now retire to the mountains, allowing Pancada to turn the boxing gym into a dancing studio. A move I'm sure his regulars are really happy with. Thank God this film is only 50 minutes long. I mean, seriously, it's the only good thing about it. It's pure torture to watch. I mean, I know Shadow likes to often say, yay bears, but seriously, this is more like, bears. The film is pure pain. The animation, if you could call it that, is atrocious, looking like something from a PS1 era of games. The voice acting is very phoned in, and you can easily tell the film was purely made to cash in on the Kung Fu Panda craze at the time. I mean, what's with this physics, guys? The sound effects? I think they're a rip from a really bad Looney Tunes cartoon. Also, I think we need to take a moment to appreciate this soundtrack. I mean, I've heard better music in elevators, seriously. They even tried ripping off a Care Bear at one point. I mean, could you actually believe this crap? This film is pure trash. I mean, right down the middle. And it's an insult, not only to just furry movies, but every other movie that was ever made. And this is, of course, reflected in the reviews, if you can find anybody willing to admit they actually watched this thing. I mean, the biggest insult, though, is that the film is being sold on Amazon Marketplace right now for the grand total of $137. Why?
So there we go. Those were some more furry movies that suck. What films do you think suck? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to see what other furry films you'd like me to talk about on here. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, or consider supporting us on Patreon. There's a link in the description below. I'm Shadow Raccoon.
And I'm Theodore Rabbit.
And we'll see you next time. Bye everyone!